that it? I think
Yeah,
we're
I think
live.
we're live.
All right. Hello.
Cool. Hi everybody. Um, welcome
New
to
stream setup.
welcome to our new stream setup. There might be a bit of a delay between the two of us. We're just trying to get things working with remote streaming in from two different locations.
Yeah.
Um, so it's actually been a little bit of a while since I've done one of these AMAs because Liam's been doing such an awesome job creating loads of new content and showing off different VSTs and all sorts of things. But I wanted to hop in on this one because I was particularly excited with some of the improvements that have happened in this update. It's all about the triggers this update. So in fact, I should probably I'll turn these controls off so I don't end up accidentally triggering anything. But yeah, what we've done is released a couple of improvements in the functionality behind the triggers and some of the stuff that you can then do with it. And we thought we'll just kind of talk you through that, answer any questions you might have, answer any other questions you might have not relating to this update, relating to anything Dubler, Evoclia, music making stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll just take it from
I've,
there.
yeah. We've got just a couple questions in the form that we've got, but yeah, if we're obviously keeping up on the chat. So if you've got anything whilst we're talking, just stick it in the chat and we'll keep an eye on it. Yeah. Yeah. For this one, for sure, it's about triggers, and George is definitely knows his way around the triggers a lot better. Well, not knows his way around them. He's a lot better of a beatboxer than me.
Well,
Admit.
I think I wouldn't claim to be a particularly proficient beatboxer, but what I have found
But we should.
I have
Right.
improved, and I have found that I could basically on the version of Dubler previous to this one, I could basically just about start to go faster than Dubler could keep up, and so
Yeah.
that's one of the things that's driven this update. If you want, I can go straight into it. Maybe
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was actually a question to you, Liam, as well. All right, so I've got Dubler here. Actually, one of the first things that we should say, everything's grayed out at the moment because I've kind of got all the channels turned off so that I don't get any accidental sounds coming through. But what I should say is when you open up Dubler, if you download the update, do you wish to save this profile? Yes, why not? When you open it up for the first time, any existing profiles that you have are going to look like this, with this little red exclamation mark up here, and that's because the triggers have been updated in such a way that you have to retrain your profile. It's kind of a good thing to do every now and again anyway, because actually what you do find is the way that you make sounds kind of naturally evolves anyway. So it's kind of good every now and again to kind of refresh the profile. But in this update, you'll have to refresh the profiles in order to use it. We've actually, if David was on the call, he'd be able to go into a bit more detail about this. We've actually changed some of the way that underlying we take those little samples of data, so that if we do a future update on triggers again, we won't need to do this every time, but this time you have to. So if I go onto one of these profiles that was created before, it's going to come up with a little reminder that you're going to have to go in there, update the profile, and it'll look like this. So all the triggers that you'd kind of previously created are grayed out. They've got this little exclamation mark over them saying that it needs to be trained, to be retrained. And then you just update it as the same way you would any other triggers. So I click on here. It hasn't got any examples. I could train and give it some new ones. Everything else, any other settings that you've got, so here you can see there's a key fix on C minor. If I had any other kind of settings on with the dial, the expression dials or anything like that, that'd still all be saved. It's purely just you need to retrain the examples for your trigger. But anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes I find yeah. I mean, I say this a lot on these streams anyway when I'm doing stuff, but it can be good to update your profiles anyway with your kind of like just fairly regularly whilst you're. I mean, it doesn't have to be too often, but sometimes having a chance to retrain profiles is a good way to like rethink about how you're laying down beats and the sounds you're making and stuff. So yeah, it's like also a good way to like refresh yourself on those kind of like on those things, on the sounds you're making.
Yeah, for sure. I think particularly at the start that I probably update my triggers less and less frequently because you just settle more into the same kind of repeatable sounds. But
Yeah,
particularly
yeah,
when I
for
was
sure.
getting going. Okay, so I've opened this other profile that I'd already trained up on new version of Dubler 1.2. So let's just talk high level what some of the update allows you to do. First of all, it's going to allow you to trigger sounds in a much quicker succession. So before, if you're putting in a very rapid sequence of beatbox sounds, you'd find that maybe, I mean, it was pretty quick already, but maybe it would miss some if you had a really particularly quick triplet or something like that. Now it allows you to do that. So let's see if this is working. So the old version of Dubler would still be fine with something like that. But if you wanted to put in like little triplets, so you can see I can get these kind of rolls going. So it allows you to be like quite significantly faster in succession between the triggers, which is an awesome little update. Liam, have you tried anything on the kind of tapping side of that?
Yeah, so I've tried it a bit on with like the table and stuff, because obviously with we've said this a bit before, like you can kind of turn various objects and stuff around you almost into like sample pads. But now obviously like your fingers are so much quicker most of the time than your voice, but I feel like now Dubler is able to keep up with that sort of level of like tapping. So yeah, it's a great way of like, if you want to use like a table where you can use different objects, if you want to get in depth with it, you can really like get in with that. So
I think there's a video in that somewhere, right? I think coming up at some point.
Sure. Yeah, we should set up like a sort of a home sort of I'm not sure what you'd call it. I guess it's like a DIY sample.
Well, there might be some people that even caught the failed attempt at that. And actually, I did a stream on the Facebook group like a while back trying to do exactly that. Well, for one thing, it was on the older version of Dubler, so it couldn't go quite as fast anyway, but it was still pretty good at that anyway.
Yeah, but your laptop had a meltdown though, right?
It sure did,
during that, so trying to stream everything.
So you also might have spotted when I was doing that little bit of beatboxing that the animation has changed a little bit. So these trigger circles are actually growing in size to kind of give a little bit of feedback, and that's not just a consistent growth every time. It's actually based on the velocity, because another of the updates that we're bringing here is improved velocity sensitivity. So here I've got this in the background. I'm using Ableton. I've just pulled in one of their kits, the session dry drum kit. Something like that's particularly pronounced for the way that it uses velocity. So you can get this different levels of expression based on the velocity of voice. You could do that in the old version of Dubler. It's just much improved now. With that,
it was something for me that because I was relatively new when I started using Dubler to beatboxing and such, like trying to get like velocity control and stuff in was like something that first I had to get the sounds down and then got velocity. And there was just different things that you could use there. And now with this, something as simple as like whilst you're beatboxing, moving the mic slightly away whilst you continue to beatbox can like change velocity and things. And there's like all these kind of cool things that you can now incorporate into like the beats. So yeah, not to also there's different techniques and stuff as well for controlling velocity, like moving the mic or using your voice in different ways.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, so another way that Dubler's changed a little bit is if you go on the trigger settings, which you can get to either by clicking on one of these triggers or actually just by clicking on the left hand side here at all, anywhere, it's going to show you the input sensitivity. Now that was there before, but we've changed what's going on underneath slightly. So if you have a very high sensitivity, then it's going to pick up quieter noises, and if you have a very low sensitivity, you're going to have to be quite loud and close to the microphone. Now that was how it was before anyway, but also kind of somewhat incorporated to that now is also the level of velocity response. So if you have it right up here, it's going to be very sensitive to velocity as well, and if you have it right down here, you're going to get a much more kind of consistent flat velocity. You can still, on any trigger, turn velocity control on and off if you want. So if it's off, it's just always going to be coming through as max. But this slider will allow you to kind of range that sensitivity. So if you are doing something like tapping on a table, you're probably going to want to turn the sensitivity up a little bit. I have mine kind of around here. If I go right up to the top, See, it still absolutely still works me pretty well, but it's just picking up slightly more background if I kind of get a little bit closer to it. And if I go down to the bottom, it still works well as well, but I just have to be slightly more pronounced with my sounds. You'd also find you might get a slight latency improvement. So overall, the latency has been improved by about 1 millisecond on average. Now, with the really fast bits, so with stuff like that, the latency improvement's really good because it almost wasn't kind of able to do that before, and so whenever it did pick one up, it might have like a little bit of a lag. But even on just something like the latency improvement there is about 1 millisecond, which doesn't sound like much, but you can kind of feel it as you're starting to use it. Have you noticed that, Liam?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, the latency always felt pretty on point, but I've really noticed now, like you were saying, when you try to get faster, it just you really notice it just sort of keeps up with you. Like we were saying, I found this really fun with when it comes to sort of like I really like a lot of sort of like IDM kind of like music where like a lot of the beats are like pretty fast paced, and they're often done by like sort of just people having like samplers or sequencers, just running at really fast rates. And you can always like sort of vocalize those kind of beats, but they're so difficult to put in with something like this because now the speeds are there. You can either kind of start to match those kind of things where there's like sequences running at like 32 like notes or whatever during like a BPM, and it's something you can now actually do with your voice, which is.
I think it is slightly illustrative of where we've got to with the triggers, though, that the idea of like a 1 millisecond improvement is noteworthy because it was, like you say, it was already pretty on point. And actually, if you are having any issues with the latency when it comes to triggers, chances are it's not something that's actually to do with Dubler, and it's probably to do with the setup in the DAW or something else that's going on. And if you do have any problems with that, you can let us know because we can still help you sort it out. But the latency,
we've got some help pages set up there for that kind of stuff. But yeah, for sure, the latency should be basically, or it should feel real time.
So another thing that I started experimenting with is when like more new triggers, because you're able to pick up because you've got this sliding kind of sensitivity, you're able to pick up slightly more ghost notes. Now there's that can be a negative thing if you don't want them, but of course you can just set your sensitivity down a little bit. But if you do want them, because actually you're only able in like a really fast stream to make quite a light noise or something like that, then it's a way that you can actually potentially broaden the number of triggers that you've got. So I started messing around with that, and one of the things that you notice when I'm doing this little bit of beatboxing here, I've got these two sounds. The kick drum's more of a, and then this low tom that's like a. But it means I can go and flip between them. It also means if I get it slightly wrong, like it's okay because the drum it's going to choose is still in this kind of low punchy range. So I started to then kind of experiment, think, well, you could do that with other drums. So for example, I've got these hi-hats that, and people have often asked us whether or not can it understand the difference between an open hi-hat and a closed hi-hat, for example. And Dubler's very good at identifying between two different sounds. And it's always been very good at that. That was true in the previous version as well. But the challenge is, of course, you've got to get that kind of onset right at the very start. So if your personal difference between an open hi-hat and a closed hi-hat is the difference between tss and tss, then all Dubler gets is tss, and it just sounds the same. So it's unable to distinguish because it's in the sustain period. But if the difference between your open and closed hi-hats is there in the onset, then Dubler is able to incorporate that. So I did start messing around with that. Personally, my vocals aren't consistent enough, but I'm going to try and do it now anyway, because like I say, if you get it wrong, it doesn't matter. It's not like a jarring mistake. So I'll start by retraining this one to be a really definite closed hi-hat sound. And then I'll add another one on an open hi-hat. Where's that? There. And for this, I need to make it slightly different. But I don't know if this is going to work. Never experiment on live stream. So the difference in sounds there that I've made is like. So I. So yeah, so Dubler's able to get the difference, and then when you start to put that in stream, it can be difficult to, personally, like your vocals, to maintain that difference. But it kind of starts to open it up, and even kind of like little artifacts start to sound really cool. Wow, that worked a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like, Dubler's capable of it, but I wasn't sure that I would be. Oh, just moved this around. Have we got any questions in the...
Well, Mac is asking about the 808 stuff, and like we've got, so I mean, the trigger stuff can be used to control, just like if you're talking about the classic drum machine like 808, which as usual, but I think you're probably talking about sort of like the 808 bass, which is the pitch stuff. So this update is basically just on triggers, and so there's not been much changes. Well, there haven't been changes on the pitch side. So if you're wanting to control like bass with the pitch things and your notes, then that's something we're going to be looking at in some future updates. It is something we've got some ideas about and we're working on. So if you're thinking about, pitched 808, that will be future updates. We'll get on that. These triggers though, for now, just about, you could use it for the classic drum machine, or you could even do different things. I think me and Mac even spoke about this before, about doing different pitches on triggers, but for now, this is just triggers, but pitch will be coming soon. We're experimenting with some different bits and bobs.
Yeah, series of there'll be. I mean, we've got one thing that's kind of more definitely in the works at the moment, but I mean, this is what we do, right? So there's going to be a whole series of updates over the coming months and years, and the growth of Dubler. This is only Dubler. We've only gone through 1 and 1.1, and now we're here at 1.2, but 1.3 hopefully coming up soon, but there'll be 4, 5, all of these, loads of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Anthony Clark's been super supportive. He says can't wait for us to get his in July. So I guess just an update in general as well about the July lot is that as we're getting closer, I think they have arrived in the warehouse now, am I saying? So they've arrived. They obviously just need to be
today,
processing.
I think it was
today, basically just they'll have to be processed and all these bits and bobs. But we're hoping that it should be going out maybe mid-July. I would say roughly for now, maybe second week of July. But we can give more accurate dates as we get there. But they've arrived today, and as we go, we'll be able to.
It's good. We've been pleased with how quickly they've managed to get through customs, which was a concern. But obviously, with social distancing in place, when things are going through the warehouse, the staff there are having to work in a slightly different way. We've got to do some repacking, and one of the things that we've got to do, which might come as a surprise, that we still work in this way, but we're still only a small team. We got to create all of the codes to go out, the software license codes. So that's a bit of a manual job, and they've all got to get in the kits. But we are working as quick as possible to get them out to you.
It's Nopo says, do you have a public roadmap? Really interested if you do. We don't have a roadmap sort of for what we're working on. I think like George, we spoke about this bit before, but a lot of what we do, because this is a brand new product and a lot of the new things, what we work on a lot of the time is experiments, where sometimes there'll be an idea that David will be working on. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it doesn't. We scrap it and try other things. So at the moment, we don't want to say like this is definitely becoming, because we've got to play with it, got to experiment, we've got to see if it works first. So we're a bit hesitant to say definites. But when we get closer to the line, basically when there's an idea and we've got it working, we'll then start to update and be like, this is going to come out, we're going to be working on pitch, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think we do want to share a little bit more about that. Like, part of it, to be honest, is like Liam's saying, it's not that we have stuff that we know about that we're not sharing. It's more like we're working on loads of things. Some areas of R&D suddenly accelerate on, and it's like, wow, this is going to become something, like we've had a breakthrough. Others become less important because it's really important for us that we respond to feedback. And almost everything that we're working on is because we think that people want it, rather than just we lock ourselves in a room and come up with it. So if we suddenly start to get a lot of feedback saying, hey, this would actually be really helpful or useful, then that kind of starts to inform where we're going with it. And Liam, I think you set up, there's some way that to give us that feedback, right?
Yeah, there's a feedback form. I can even, hold on, just give me a second. I'll post it in the chat now. There's a form basically where we take like feature requests and stuff. So if you guys have ideas, then basically we can just sort of keep a track on them and make sure. Let me just pop it in the chat now. Yeah, so
I would say though there are some exciting bits of R&D that we have. They're just still got a little bit of work to go. Otherwise, we'd be rolling them out more quickly. So they'll take a while, but this isn't going to be the last update of Dubler. Put it that way.
Yeah, I just seen someone, Gene, doesn't seem to be having a particularly good time with it. He's just supposed to add drag. If you're having any problems or there's something you want to chat about, please do messages at help@vocleo.co.uk, and we can do like one-on-one chats with you. Like Gene, I'm more than happy. We can set up a video call and try to figure out if you need any help. And yeah, so if you're having problems, then please do email us, and we can help you out there. Mac's also talking about creating a hand-free mic or headset mic. Yeah, this is basically like there's tons of things at the moment. Like, you guys all know we're a very small team and we're focusing on just trying to get the software. Trying to get the software as good as it can be and work on all these different things. But yeah, hopefully in the future we could do different hardware stuff as well. Things like, maybe a hands-free mic, like you said, or different cables, like live-based stuff. Or there's all sorts of things we've got ideas for. Yeah, when we grow. At the moment, like, we're going to go for, we're just focusing on the software, but yeah, hopefully we can do these other things soon.
You could also experiment with that yourself. I mean, with the caveat that we don't know if it will work. Obviously, like, the Dubler software is not locked to the Dubler microphone, and that's on purpose because people should be able to experiment with stuff if they want. The flip side is we don't know that it will work, and that's why we create the Dubler microphone, because that way we can guarantee an excellent experience and that it will work to the best of its ability. So, for example, in this update, we're just talking about how velocity sensitivity is much improved. If you use it with another mic, and even if you manage to tune the gain on the mic so that it works with the software, you'll almost certainly find that the velocity response isn't as good because that's so finely tuned and responsive to the microphone. But there's things around you can do with that. We've got this input sensitivity slider. You've got the option to turn off velocity control. So it requires a little bit more manual experimentation. But if you've got some idea for a live show or something like that where you want to try it out with a headset mic, the issue, of course, you might find is latency. But if it's a wired headset mic, obviously you did say wireless, then that would solve your problem. Yeah, there are latency issues with it as well. True. Anyway,
yeah, there's tons of experiments that I'm kind of interested to see what would happen if with like different contact mics and how that would pick up sounds for triggers. So if you had like a contact mic, because obviously how that is feeding in sounds, but it does it in a completely different way because it's a contact mic. So I'd be really interested to try that out with like triggers and setting up different sounds, but it would be really like sounds almost we couldn't hear, so it would be kind of weird. Like you wouldn't think of them as sounds, but how you interacted with, I don't know, like clicks or like touching an object.
Yeah,
like,
but that said,
cool.
This update has really, I've been amazed because we've done there's been a whole new tuning exercise for all the triggers. And so it's even more responsive to handling noise than it ever was, which is amazing. Like before, if I go like that, okay, you start to hear the drum. But I'm literally tapping the microphone there, and I'm not getting anything. But if I go here, I'm not making a very loud noise there, but I'm getting a low velocity response on that kick drum straight off. So I don't know what magic they've done to make that happen. But I'm not sure what would happen if you plug contact mics on.
Tom Middleton said, so in theory, could you have a number of mics? I mean, it's something you could experiment with, but basically you can set the input in the Dubler settings to whatever you like. So if you had, say, an audio interface that had multiple mics in, you could have a mic one side of the room that was picking up something someone was doing, and someone else doing something else with another mic. But the thing is, obviously, with triggers and it's your voice, it has to be like monophonic. Like if sounds are happening at the same time, it wouldn't quite do that. But yeah, it's something to experiment with. You can give it a go and see what results you get. For sure. Um,
Well,
Bunfest.
I'll jump in. One thing
So
David
yeah.
mentioned was there was a question in the, I think it was in the private Facebook group, and it was about CPU load with this update. So it should be that there's no discernible difference, and when you're using Dubler, there's not a discernible difference, but it was identified, and I don't want to. I'd have to close the stream I've got open to check who actually pointed this out to us. But we're super grateful. David's probably like furiously typing to me the name. I'm super grateful to whoever it was that pointed out that there is a CPU load increase when Dubler's not in use, so kind of in its idle state. That's actually something that we'll be able to fix. So we're working on that. We'll roll out an update, and that should be taken care of soon. He's still there, Liam. No, okay. Let me just quickly check whether or not.
There we go. Am I back?
You're back. Hooray.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Bumfest. Yeah, sorry, I was chatting there to nobody. Bumfest said, "How about being able to trigger chokes?" Yeah, you could do that. So if you set up a choke group and like had various different samples, you could trigger that. I mean, all it's doing is sending out a MIDI note, so you could sort of do that in Ableton or whatever DAW you're using to trigger different choke groups. Or I did a video recently on our Instagram with kind of like some jungle beats and almond breaks where I had different stuff all assigned in different like choke groups, so it would all kind of like fire off kind of like nice and tightly. So yeah, you can do that with triggers, absolutely.
Did you share that video, the jungle beat that you're doing? Was that just to us, or did you share that to
let me stick it in the, I'll stick it in the,
yeah, it's so good.
There you go. Here's the Instagram thing. Yeah, basically what I've done on there is basically got like an arm end break with triggers playing different parts of it. So different triggers playing different sections of the arm end break, and then in different channels. And they're all will be on like one choke group. And then on different ones, I've got like some samples and just like, yeah, just some good jungle samples and bits and bobs going on. So yeah, that's like a really fun way of playing with that. You can see I've also got some other things in there as well on the Ableton rack, which just like keep it all sort of like, it's kind of like quantizing it in real time, if that makes sense. So when I go between different notes, it sort of keeps it all sounding nice when the arm and break finishes. But yeah, for sure. Choke groups. We should do a video on triggers and choke groups actually, because it's a really important thing about making your drums nice and tight.
You should do a video, I think, because I was just thinking how awful that video would be if I tried to do it. Yeah. Sounds like a good idea, though.
Yeah, someone, Dane was already covered this in the chat, but someone asking if, how can I get the new update? You can simply download it from, there's a link that's in there, blockfluid.co.uk/download, or your Dubler app, if you open it up, should give you a little prompt saying that the latest update is ready.
It should give you a prompt. Also, I think if you ever want to check, I mean, you just go down to the download thing, but up in the top right corner, you can check for updates, and that will take you directly to the download page, and you can just download the latest one. And there's no harm. It's like a really small. The Dubler is actually quite a small file, so there's no harm in downloading it, throwing out your old one. Your profiles will still be saved, so even if it's just the same version, there'll be nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Can we see how? I want to push you to your limit, how fast you can go with your beatboxing. We did this before in previous streams.
This might now I've added that extra trigger, the extra.
I guess maybe do like 3 triggers or something. Or
that's a good idea. Yeah, okay, let's try. That. I'll tell you what. Let's just create a whole new. Yeah, I'll save that. That's my first time I've ever had 7 triggers. Whole new profile. Really cool.
Yeah, okay. This was something I still am not particularly speedy at all, but with this new thing, I have been having fun doing those rolls, and like difference between like saying the triggers, I'll have like one that's more of a and one that's very close, like you were saying before, like that you can go like, and
yeah,
like it's nothing. I don't consider myself a fast like beatboxer at all, but just you playing with. I think maybe you need to come up with a different term than beatboxer, because it's not beatboxing. It's
I agree.
Term. I don't want to be the person who coins it though, because it would be cheesy.
It also, I feel like
else needs to say it.
Well, you're right. We do need another term though, because it's a disservice to people who can actually beatbox, but also it's something that puts off people that can't. when it doesn't, if you, I mean, I would never consider myself someone that could beatbox, but I can trigger drum samples through Dubler using my voice.
Yeah, it's not.
So
Yeah,
we need a
which isn't as
sharp,
catchy.
not as catchy. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it does need a new name.
Okay, so that's 3. I mean, sometimes I'm tempted to add a 4th, which is the kind of second kick drum, because they're just always going to be the same. It's like I've got one of those double kick drum pedals that were like all the rage with like metal bands in the late 90s, early 2000s.
It is a weird thing because it is almost unique. Those kind of like weird fills, like the speed of those like drum kind of like fills and stuff. It's like something you can't do with your fingers on sample pads unless you had like multiple fingers because of the rate of that. And it's not something you could even do with like, well, I don't know. I'm sure there must be some drummer out there who can do crazy, but it is like this kind of unique kind of thing of like your sound being able, your voice being able to do those really fast rolls. Like, it's unique.
Well, that's annoying when you hear that repetitively. I've got this kit set up for the velocity, but obviously there's probably others that might illustrate the speed a little bit better. That's probably as fast. The is probably as fast as I can get.
Yeah.
I mean, Dubler definitely goes faster than I can now.
I mean, we had a few people, some people in the community send us some things that was really good. So I'm interested to see these people who are definitely some really great, like sort of, beatboxers, Dubler beatboxers who can like do these things.
Definitely, and I think it is more resistant to noise. Well, not to all noise. It depends where you slide your input sensitivity. But like I was saying there about the tapping and how that's not triggering it. So obviously, people have different beatboxing styles or Dubler triggering styles, and I think sometimes people are getting kind of accidental triggers because they're making quite noisy sounds around their beatboxing. So I'd be interested to see how that's kind of handled with the update as well.
Yeah. Bun said, I've been experiencing a lot of flaming when I beatbox. Any suggestions on how to, what do you mean by flaming? I'm not quite sure what that
fire
means.
I experience the fire every time as well.
I mean, I'm not sure if you can if you let us know in different words, maybe it's a term I'm not too clued up on. But like I mentioned before, if we don't cover this right now in the stream, if there's little things like that, or you want tips or advice, then help@boxplay.co.uk is always open for dropping any messages and stuff. Or you can even, if there's little questions like that, you can even just message us on Facebook and stuff. We're always happy to chat on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's basically 1.2 then, I guess.
That's 1.2. We'll do a video with some triggering with tapping, which will also showcase a little bit more of 1.2. But otherwise, were you thinking about doing more live streams in the Facebook group as well? Yeah.
So, Tommy was saying flamming meaning unwanted doubles or triple notes. So, I mean, I guess one of the things when beatboxing, if you're getting unwanted notes, it might just be about how you've trained it and make sure you're picking apart each individual sound for those triggers and making sure they are separate. So when you basically do things like we're saying, the difference between whatever, if you're getting double notes, what might be happening is that you're making that first sound that is the same. We spoke out a bit before with open hats and closed hi-hats, is that initial sound you might be making might be the same for different triggers. So so maybe you can try something such as try a new profile, retrain the triggers and make sure those kind of first, that onset of each trigger is separate or different, else it might not be able to pick it apart.
Well, the way I interpreted that was getting extra like
Oh, what extra
extras.
notes that you weren't hitting?
So for me, for that, you got input sensitivity. Obviously, if you have this really far up, there, that was an example of it.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay, but you get an extra. You get like 3 when you meant 1. So
Yeah.
the sensitivity is going to help you deal with that, bring the sensitivity down. But also, the other thing that can often contribute towards that is where exactly you're beatboxing and how much air you're putting over the microphone. So, you know, if you're right up close, and I know that like people are actually good at beatboxing, they get like this. But if you do that, it's very easy to just get accidental triggers, and it's mainly through extra air going over the microphone. So just take it back a little bit as well, and you can even have the sensitivity is way too high, but to have the sensitivity up a little bit, but move it further back.
Yeah, I guess like you say, it's like finding, I guess, a balance between like, yeah, moving the mic and the sensitivity as well, and seeing where you know you get the least amount of incorrect triggers, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as you were saying before, yeah, live stream pop shield. Would a pop shield help? I haven't personally tried. Have you tried a pop shield, George, with it? I have seen some users use pop shields with our mic before, actually, in videos. I can't say personally if it helps or not, but yeah, I guess if you've got one, give it a go. See if you get any better results.
Yeah, I haven't because my style doesn't require it, but I think there's a certain type of like kick drum sound that people make that can be quite blowy, which might benefit from a pop shield. But also, like, if you have the sensitivity right up, you know, when you make a sound like then Dubler can even hear when you bring your lips back together and you're not making a sound anymore, and it's just this tiny little. Obviously there is a sound associated with it, but we don't notice it as to the human ear. But it might be that as well that you're making a sound where there's several onsets to that sound. So if you make a kick sound that's like a then you've got like a and a kind of an end bit, and like you could easily trigger multiple sounds then, but that's because if you actually looked at the waveform, there are several different stages to the sound you're making. So you can deal with that by turning the sensitivity down, or by tailoring the sounds that you make to be very short, sharp onsets. And I think because all of us sit messing around with Dubler all day long, we've somewhat met in the middle, and a lot of our kind of beatboxing style is to have very short and sharp onsets, because that works so well with Dubler. So that's why we don't end up using a pop shield. So you could try pop shield, but if not, there's always like shorten the onsets.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess what we were saying about before, like live streams and stuff, I guess we do these like YouTube ones monthly, so these ones will be this one will be next month again, but we do other ones as well in between. If you own a Dubler or you have purchased and waiting for it, you can join our private group for Dubler users, where people sort of share the music they've been making with Dubler and chat and various bits and bobs on Facebook, private community. We do some live streams and stuff in there occasionally. I think we do one in there probably soon, so maybe I should do one possibly next week or so. I normally do them also once a month, but I haven't done one this month so far, so we can do one. Yeah, maybe we could look at chokes and stuff and triggers and things, seeing as we've got 1.2 out. So yeah, Tom was saying pitch recognition in 1.2. Yeah, pitch is exactly the same in 1.2. So yeah, 1.2 is just focused on triggers. So yeah, pitch is the same. But like me and George mentioned,
we'll have some. 1.3 will have some pitch stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly what we don't know yet.
Yeah, that's what that is the next sort of thing we're working on. Yeah, or Damon's in the chat. Damon's working full time on that stuff. But yeah, so yeah, if you have purchased or you're looking to buy and want to join the private group, then it's over on Facebook. You can message us as usual on Instagram and the DMs or Facebook things, all that kind of stuff. If you've got any messages or questions, demos, then yeah, just get in touch and we can chat about it. Yeah. I think that's
and let us know
it.
what you make of 1.2.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's we want to see these people do these crazy beats.
And if you come up with a word that's not beatboxing, but it's for triggering samples through Dubler using your voice, let us know.
You'll get it. You'll get a bit in the app named after you.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for watching. God,
All right.
I've had to close my windows during the stream. I'm starting to get hot and bothered now.
Right, time to open the windows.
Yeah.
We'll catch you all soon on the next stream.
Oh,
the next
hold
live
on,
stream.
David. Sorry, David is just pulled in. Can you guys do a cello demo with pitch bend on for Tom? Do you have a cello
Let's have
plugin?
a look. I've only recently reinstalled. No, I don't.
So Tom's asking specifically about vibrato. We don't have like if you did a vibrato with your voice, you wouldn't be able to translate that into vibrato straight up. But yeah, you could use pitch bend to do that slightly with your wobble, but it would be quite dependent on George's voice being able to do that.
I haven't updated all of the new instruments yet. It happened on what are all these instruments? Does it not just have a kind of normal strings section or something?
Where are you looking? I can't quite see this. I've got some delay in there.
Rotor violin. It's not a cello, but what's that?
Quality of this could be questionable.
Yeah, I think we're in for a treat here. Let's see. Yeah, God, yeah, you're right. The quality is questionable.
I'll tell you what, Tom. If you want to see something specifically about cello, give us a message on Facebook or whatever. I'll find a cello. I think I've probably got one somewhere in Native Instruments, and I can do a little thing on cellos if you want. Just ping us a message so I remember, or drop us an email, whatever, and I can send something over to you.
You saved me.
Rather than watching George have to go through loads of different sounds.
Mess around with the rotor violin. Yeah, no, you're right.
Also, actually, we have done this a few times because people ask about instruments. If you go through some of our past streams and have a skip through, I think pretty sure quite a few of them we've done this. So have a quick skip through some of our older ones, and there will definitely be violins and cellos in there somewhere along the way.
Yeah, we used to use a whole string section in quite a lot of the earlier videos. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Some obviously the versions of Dubler will be older, so some stuff will be different, but yeah. Yeah, strings in general. Yeah, for sure. And check out those last ones. Yeah, Gene Nelson, email us at help@rockclear. We put it earlier in the chat. Please do email us and we'll sort out whatever problems you're having. But yeah, all right. Proper goodbye this time now.
All right, cool. Have a nice afternoon, evening, or day, wherever you are, timeline in the world, and we'll catch you on the next live stream.
All right, cheers. Bye.
See ya. Bye.